Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. I was holding a special Treehouse meeting just to discuss, of course, the changes to the upcoming backlog and the way we vote, and hopefully how we submit backlog items as well. So, just basically opening that right up for discussion, but just to put some context around it all. And just to explain what the changes are, I'll go through that a little bit. So I do have a screenshot I can share. Okay, can everyone see that? The screenshot there of the backlog? Yeah. So basically, already it's been brought into the portal. So we can basically vote from within the portal. Hopefully that will bring more attention to it from partners. But coming very soon, we're going to have this new interface that we're just looking at now. So basically, we're still having the 3 votes at the moment. So I confirmed that with Alex. They're going to implement this My Favorites tab. So you can kind of throw items in there that you want to put votes on but haven't got votes for yet, or just save you going through all the big list again. At the moment, in the current release of this, they're only going to allow 1 vote per item. So there was talk about being able to put all 3 votes on 1 item, but that's not coming at the moment. And the idea about different partners having different amounts of votes or different weightings of votes, that's not coming just yet either. So I think that's something we'll discuss here anyway, because I personally have mixed views on that. But so that's basically where we're at. Also, there's a percentage bar here which will show the overall percentage of votes cast by all partners. So they're the features that we'll be looking at. So I do have a few topics that it will go through, but I guess we'll just open it up to anyone who wants to sort of make any comments on that or has any questions about it. So feel free to take the mic if you want to, or put anything in chat. Otherwise, I'll move on to the topics that I wanted to talk about.
I got a question. So the vote usage is for all votes that are potentially out there, not how much we have, because we only have 3, right? But what can we do about that? I mean, if we see that only 10% of people voted, that's nice, I guess, to know, but what's actionable that we can do in response to that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess the idea behind it is to encourage people, like if they see that it's low, to get active with voting. I'm not sure really on that.
I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about that. I don't want someone going in there and throwing votes in and they don't even really care about a feature. I mean, they're going to go in there just to use them because we're asking them to vote for something, and then it might prioritize something over something that we really need. I feel like if they're really waiting for a feature, like several of us, then we're in there monitoring it frequently because it matters.
Yeah, that's a good point. I fully agree with that. And there was, just chatting with Alex, a comment that perhaps the whole voting could be turned off for a partner. Like if a partner wasn't interested in voting, or they could just switch that feature off and they wouldn't see it in their portal and wouldn't care about it, or maybe it's an opt-in thing. People opt in to vote, but yeah, I'm not too sold on the progress bar. I'd see that more as a metric for the team to look at, but not necessarily the individual partner.
Adam, why do you have mixed feelings about partners with more live sites getting more votes?
Basically, I like the idea of everyone having the same, everyone being on equal playing field. It just kind of, and I guess just initially it feels wrong to have people with higher votes. I mean, I get why it would be a good thing as well. So that's why I have mixed feelings. It's just yeah, initially it kind of doesn't seem fair or equal.
I don't know. I think there's several of us that have invested our whole business and have standardized on one platform. And others who are still, they have a couple of Treehouse sites and a couple of WordPress and a few more. I mean, I feel like if you're gonna standardize your whole business, so I don't know, I don't know if we should get one vote per live site. I mean, I think, 40 and 50 votes might be a little bit obnoxious, but I do think that we've got a lot of skin in the game I think we have about 45 live sites right now, and I'm anxiously awaiting for things, and customers who have one or two Treehouse sites or are still playing around with WordPress, I don't think that their votes should matter as much, I mean, we still have, 100 Business Catalyst sites to convert. I mean, that also matters to me, is how many are, what features are they waiting for in order to convert? Now, I don't need features for 100. I probably only need a few features for 5 remaining sites.
Yeah,
that's just my 2 cents.
Some people might be waiting, though. I know this is me. Some people might be waiting for specific features, like like depending on your portfolio of sites. Like my portfolio of sites is all e-commerce practically. Yeah. So I'm waiting for full e-commerce. I can't move from Business Catalyst. I've got people sitting in Business Catalyst still. I've got a year left, and I'm waiting for the functionality, right? And to be able to make that offering to my. So yeah, I have to use the WordPresses of the world and the other, but it's not by choice. I still paid the partner fee, and so there's that argument on that side, like just playing devil's advocate from that side as well. So yeah, just my 2 cents.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the number of sites you have in queue is almost more important than the number you already have converted.
True. Yeah. Or it definitely has an equal bearing, I guess, or a similar bearing. Yeah.
I guess that's the issue.
Plus also the more complex sites need more things than the less complex sites. Just the basic brochure sites too.
Yeah.
We're definitely devil's advocate as well. I've got 28 sites sitting and waiting, and I can't move them yet because the features aren't available. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess that's my issue with different partners having different weightings, is that how is that determined? Like, that's the fairness side of it. Like how, because even you could have 1,000 sites and just get, however many votes, but someone with 5 sites that are really complex, really big sites could have just as much experience and dedication to the platform, that sort of thing. So, so tricky. I guess I'd be interested to see how Treehouse are going to determine, what partners get what, and also how much, like how many votes are people going to get extra, or that sort of thing. If it's not going to be too much, that's probably not too bad. But yeah. All right. So I wanted to probably sort of circle back to how backlog items are requested, because I think that's a big part of this, which isn't part of the new features that they're going to release for this voting. But I think how the types, the quality, and the thoroughness of the requests that end up in here, I think that could be improved, and that would help everyone in the long run, as well as the team. So I'm thinking that initially, like on the forums, there could be like a templated response that you have to sort of cover certain things if you're requesting a backlog item. Like you've got to give a use case for it. You've got to sort of basically state your case as to why it's important, particularly because I see backlog items that affect the whole system and benefit people in multiple ways are obviously a lot more beneficial than just someone's personal interest in, we want this very specific feature. So I think how they're reviewed initially before they even get to the backlog is important, and how much they're discussed on the forums. And then even the Treehouse team could or should weigh in on that to say, well, yes, this is actually possible or feasible, and it's complex or easy. And then from that, they move on into the backlog. So what's people's thoughts on that process being a bit more strict, I guess, even to get them into the backlog?
From our point of view, we have come at it more of a collaborative approach. So we've invested, obviously, all of our resources in the office, time and money into a platform that we can continually develop and make suggestions for.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't have a use case, or sometimes it's every single site needs an improvement. Like we, at the moment, are really struggling with the UI. There's so much white space. It's so hard to train a client and say, just keep scrolling and just keep scrolling. And we can't tell you why this giant gap of white is here. So for a user experience, that's very important. But that's an issue for us. Whereas I've seen Ryan bring up USPS in Slack, on the forums, and in these chats continually. And he can't even get this one USPS thing added to the shipping integration. I've seen him mention this time and time and time again, but it doesn't get added for him. Yet I've raised UI in one instance and it was added. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of my point. Like the process of getting things in should be a little bit more refined and so people don't get missed, and so that less very frivolous requests don't get added as well. So I think it goes both ways. So yeah, that's why I think there's definitely an issue right at that point before we even get to this new feature that's been rolled out.
But I also think what's frivolous to you isn't to somebody else, and it might be critical for them.
Yeah, but I guess if it's critical only for one person and it's a very specific use case, then it's not worth Treehouse's time for everyone else to develop. And I know that might sound harsh, but that's the idea of voting. It's a majority rule. What's good for the platform? So
I do like the idea of being able for the Treehouse team to give feedback on a feature. I found it really interesting when we were talking. I think it was Vlad that was telling us, this is at least 6 months of our time to develop. And it was like, okay, well, 6 months of their time, why don't we just change it for the customer and just say no?
Yeah,
because we would rather that 6 months be invested elsewhere. So having feedback from them would be a good idea. This is at least 2 years out, we think, or, this is only a day of resources. We could pop that in somewhere in a future sprint.
Yeah, Adam, for me, at a minimum, I have to have BC equivalent functionality. And something as simple as, the third-party shipping integrations. I mean, honestly, I'd love to be able to format code on a screen. That'd be amazing, but it's not top priority. Top priority for me is getting shipping integrations because, some of my sites on BC have that, so I can't actually move them. The other part of it is, it's just the time. Like, for me, I think Zapier is good. I think it's a good idea. But we got to nail those BC equivalents first. Trust me, I want to get as far away from BC as possible, like to the point where I'm telling clients, like, if you're not off in the next 2 months, you're on your own kind of thing. Like, it's that harsh now. I hate to say it because I'm onto fully new sites now. But I'm in a weird predicament. Like, okay, if Canada Post is not available. It's not available in BC right now. So that's more of a wish list thing for me. But most of my clients are Canadian and they want Canada Post. If I have to wait 4, 3, 5, 6 weeks, I'm like, okay, well, God, I might as well just put them on Shopify. Right. And that's kind of in the predicament. It's like, if Zapier is happening, if it's 4 months, in that 4 months, I may move 6, 7, 8 brand new sites to a different platform where they could have been on Treehouse. And it's just like the one small little element missing, right? So yeah, this is a tricky one. And I get it. People that have 900 brochure sites on Treehouse right now probably get more vote because they're investing more into the platform. Yet a lot of us are investing a lot in the platform on the development side, and just supporting the little things like speed of the site. Like all of us have pushed for that. It's amazing now. Like I am literally bragging about it to my clients. Like I took a snapshot of 5.1 versus 5.2, and I'm like, literally, it's like a 50 to 60% increase in some sites. So that stuff's amazing, right? But for me, I just need to get rid of these BC sites, and I just want the BC equivalents like checked off the list. For me, that's the biggest thing. So.
Yeah, I agree. BC parity is definitely what they have to strive for, and I think they are. But before we can move forward, so any other thoughts on that? Just before we move on,
Adam. Sorry, just one more thought. I'm just wondering if it might make sense for all these backlog items if we could just put like a small little BC badge on them or something like that, just so we know like what we're kind of missing. Because some of the stuff I haven't been working in BC in a while, so I don't remember like what are equivalent features on some things. So it might make sense just like if we were able to sort them based on BC features, and that we can like, okay, honestly guys, like, do we need this? No, check, get rid of it. Right. And maybe it prioritizes things. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's cool. That's yeah. Because more often, like quite often, you're just requesting, we need this like we had in BC. We need this like we had in BC. It's so it's a pretty simple comparison. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So sort of along the same lines of what gets into the backlog, because Alex kind of mentioned that there are things in there that are impossible or highly unfeasible. So kind of the question of what to do with those. And do they get thrown back to the forum for further discussion or, an explanation as to why that's the case. And then I guess we can discuss alternatives. But I guess going forward, if we have that stricter approach to what gets into the backlog, that shouldn't be an issue going forward. But the things that are in there, like I think Alex mentioned, so Aaron, you mentioned the formatting of the code in the editor, and that would be currently quite challenging, if not impossible, with the editor they have. So for them to deliver that, they may have to change the editor entirely. So that could bring a whole new set of problems. So things like that, how do people think that should be dealt with?
I think if you come up with a formalized process of what's going to happen as far as you're submitting something and including what you can as far as your use cases, and then getting it reviewed, and in the review process, we can incorporate what the Reliance team suggests as far as like what's the resource, and then them attaching that to it and getting it back out before they actually add it to the backlog. Lets us see what's impossible, what's not before it ever hits it. And then once you develop that process, take everything that's there now and run it back through it, that's not on the list. And let's get us to that point so that we can have the information we need to weigh it out, and fight or not fight for it once we see the resources or the implications of what one thing would mean to the others, like changing the whole editor, for example. So I think the first step is getting that formalized process in place and also making sure that we have their input. The resources is one thing, the BC badge would be another, but what other things do we need them to tell us to be able to have the information we need to be able to, like I said, fight or not fight for it. I don't know. But, yeah. I run everything else back through it once we've got the process, clean it all up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I really agree with David. I mean, this kind of voting system is like a one-way system. We just pass in our votes and our ideas, but we don't hear back from the team. What's actually possible, how much resources. I mean, once in a while we hear something like, okay, this takes like 2 sprints or 4 sprints, and this takes longer, this is easy. But what I like to see actually is a process where we get feedback from the team and hear their opinion about our ideas. That would be really helpful, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's kind of as partners, that's what you're after. You're after that acknowledgement that your idea is being looked at, that it's being actually considered, rather than just added to a list that is just a graveyard, basically. So yeah, I think that's an important feedback loop for partners.
Well, and frankly, we might suggest a feature that we need, and they might have a better way to do it or a better way to solve it that would take less resources. I mean, I think Tim said it best. It really requires a discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, a good example is the Zapier integration, because I have no idea how much development that needs. I know that I can find workarounds using different tools to get to the same thing, like using Zapier. I did some things today with Trello and like the board integration in Trello. That worked quite fine. So if they say Zapier needs like, I don't know, 3 or 4 sprints, and everything else, like much more important stuff, like for the USPS integration or things like that, has to be left behind. That doesn't make sense. Just like that.
Well, and Zapier is another good one where we don't know exactly what level they're going to implement it to get the check. Okay, we have Zapier integration and it passes CRM data, but it doesn't pass all the stuff with the orders so that you can do shipping or whatever it may be. So what parts of the API are opened up, and having those details fleshed out when you do the formalized process will be important, so that we can make sure that it's included, not just assume that with Zapier integration, I'm going to have the third-party shipping, or I'm going to have the ability to sync with CMS with Salesforce or whatever. So I think that should be part of that process too, and getting it detailed out from both parties, what we want and what they can do. Because it's nothing worse than having a feature and you get it, it's not really fully fleshed. Like we have the MailChimp thing now, but we can't segment, we can't do other things, I'd rather just get it all at once, and do it right. So I think that should be part of the formalized process as well. And then, we'll have a better understanding of what's doable.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think it definitely comes back to that initial process of getting things in, and the discussion around what it is, what the requirements are. I think that's critical. It's a good point. MailChimp's perfect example. Some comments in the chat about that. Yeah, pretty much unusable, the implementation that has been just sort of thrown out to begin with. So yeah, definitely need to flesh out. And if the team's going to invest that time in looking at that item and seeing what's possible, giving their feedback and all that, you want to carry all that through and make it as good as possible, I guess.
Well, in the sense of MailChimp, they were supposedly using that to replace the BC equivalent that we already had. A lot of those things, but they did. We don't have the ability, like with events and stuff, you have to work around. And then even with the double opt-in stuff, I've turned it off, but it's still forcing it, even though I've unchecked it. Just incomplete. Yeah. This is the best example, but I'm sure if we get a few of these other things, we may find partial implementation again and be like, well, we're back to the drawing board. We didn't get what we thought we were going to get. So,
yeah. So obviously all votes, I should have mentioned too, are being reset to 0. So we're starting again. And that's, I guess, a good opportunity to put all these back through whatever that process is developed. But obviously that's going to take a lot of time for all these items to get back through that process. So do you see that as an issue, or because I mean that in itself is almost a voting thing on, well, what gets processed first on this massive list of items?
It depends on what the processes are being, right? I mean, if the process is, as soon as we check these boxes and provide the details needed, and then we have an expected response time from the team, obviously we'll all start working on the ones that are all higher ranked, that we all have critical issues for first. And if those things individually take a matter of days to turn around between both people getting feedback, then it shouldn't take too long. And then the other ones that aren't as critical will eventually get there. I don't think it'll be a problem. But we got to develop that process, right? And we got to get their feedback to say, yeah, we'll respond within a period of time once it's submitted and past the first threshold, and get that feedback to us so we can further move it along.
Yep. So I guess that's the issue, though, getting the feedback from the team because they're already stretched. But so yeah, well, so everyone's thinking that we could throw these items back to the forum for discussion. Do you think that's where it would happen, the best place? I guess it's really the only place.
To be honest, if it's possible, I would like to see like a little forum under each of these items, like a comment section, like a discuss comment section or something. Yeah. I mean, some of them have the link to the forum post, some of them don't. So I would have to go to the forum and open up a new topic to comment, for instance, on the Zapier integration. So it's all a bit messy. So that would be nice to have like comment sections under all of these.
I agree with you on that. A discussion thread under each feature in the backlog.
Yeah. I guess it just adds another place where messages are being left in that, which I guess is fine if they're very specific to this task. And I guess then they're not too public too, which is probably a good thing, do you think? Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess just adding a discuss widget to that would pretty easily solve that. That's a good idea. I guess like the forum's good because it allows a lot of context, like you can put videos and screenshots and links and all sorts of rich media into the, if you want to really describe the process of what the request is. Whereas discuss, I guess, is pretty much just text from what I recall. So that possibly one issue, but I guess you can just always link out to things.
And the forum is also public, right?
Yeah, well, we can make private sections.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have it in here because a forum, like, I think I have the feeling the team might be more comfortable discussing certain things with the partners in a really closed, specific environment, locked environment.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's good. So that sort of brings me to a point about, let me just bring this into the window. So there were these 4 items that were at the bottom of the upcoming list. So apparently these 4 items were ones that the team had already scoped out. They're already ready to hit the development board. But Alex said that these were being reset as well. But I kind of think if something's already gone through that process and the developers have already fleshed it out, then why not get those out now? Because, I mean, that's a whole slew of time that the developers have taken. Why not just get them out? As long as they're not going to take too long, I guess. I mean, it may be the case that these end up being the top voted anyway, but still, if I know for myself, if I've spent a whole lot of time fleshing out a project and getting it all ready, and then I have to leave it go to something else, and then come back to it later, it's a massive pain. You've got to spend all that time getting up to speed with it, and things may have changed in that time. So I kind of think those items should have stayed in their internal pipeline. What's people's thoughts on that? Or let the voting decide?
To me, all of these 4 items, they look quite essential for some or like even all partners. Like for us, it's the advanced CRM and e-commerce. I think some e-commerce solutions will also need an advanced CRM. PayPal and recurring I don't know recurring products, but I can imagine that this is also important for like e-commerce. I find these 4 things quite essential. It's BC features, right? All of them.
I agree. Advanced CRM is I'm really waiting for as well. It's another big component.
Yeah, me too.
As well.
So therefore,
my understanding. Oh, sorry, Adam. Go.
No, you go. It's fine.
My understanding from our last chat with Alex, and I could be getting it completely wrong, was that they had scoped out the resources were available for these 4 features, but that it would take up to 3 months to implement them. My understanding for him resetting them was because people had said other things were more important, more critical.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, that's the gist I got. So do we leave it up to the voting to decide whether these come back? It's just because they've already been scoped. That was my sort of take on it.
If they are in the master plan and there's been a date on it, then the likelihood of one of us committing to it with one of our customers is high. So if they say that it's going to be done, I don't want it to get undone. Because we started one of our, the biggest site that we have, we started the migration of it. And I think that to kind of see how far we could push it. Now I have some flexibility with the customer, but I've kind of hit my limit where I can go. And so I'm waiting for the advanced CRM like lots of you guys. And so I was like, okay, but it's in development. And if it gets pulled off, I'm in a bind for sure.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, at least advanced CRM and custom reports are on the master plan, actually. I would expect them to deliver the way it's on the master plan page on the Triple site. And it said like July 2020. I mean, us personally, we expect the advanced CRM to be there in July. Like for one client, we wouldn't be able to do this. So I would have to go back to this client and say, we just, we can't do it. Our partner has problems, like, I don't know, implementing that or whatever. I would have to find an excuse because it's on the master plan and I relied on the master plan. So I would at least make the items on the master plan execute on the master plan at least.
I agree. One of the worst things we can do is continually have to go back to clients. Like the amount of times I've had to go back to clients and say, well, actually they've changed the date again. It really reflects badly on us. I think if you're going to commit to something, you say, this is when we're going to do it, and we need to try and keep to that as much as possible. So a more thrashed out progress of what's planned, when it's coming, something that we can stick to more strongly, I think is really important, because we're making promises. Well, not promises, but we're saying to clients, well, that's due in the next 1 to 3 sprints. So within the next 3 months, we're going to have that. For clients who want advanced CRM or custom reports, and if that all gets thrown back in, then we're back to square one, and we've got clients who just, like, how long is it going to be until we can move them?
Yeah, I totally get that. I guess from the team's point of view, it's easy for things to change. Like it's very up in the air, like with BC now extending the end of life and just all the things that are happening and the pace at which they need to move. I guess they've just got to be a bit more agile, but yeah, it's certainly, I think definitely if things are on the master plan and it's, BC parity that we're talking about, there probably shouldn't even be items in the backlog. It should just be on their internal process, as I'm sure a lot of things already are.
There's a big difference between being delayed 1 month and it going back to being voted on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We all understood that performance was an issue and it had to get fixed. So I think we were all okay to wait for advanced CRM for another month because we got faster sites, right? That made sense to most of us. But to take it off completely and then subject it to not getting done this year, that's just too risky for us.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So definitely, I think a complete review of what's on the backlog, sending everything back to that process. Hopefully that will resolve all that, and being a bit stricter with how backlog items are put in there. So what else? And then the only other minor thing I was going to throw out there was, so Alex just mentioned the naming of this tab here, upcoming. It could probably be a bit misleading, particularly at the moment, because there are items which may not ever actually become a thing. So just any thoughts on what renaming that? So a bit of a trivial point, but it should just be proposed or something like that.
In the old days on BC, there was a wish list.
Yep. So wish list.
Wish list or proposed. I mean, either one. But you're right. Upcoming isn't quite clear, so I'm fine with anything as long as it's more direct what it is.
Yeah. Cool.
Or ranked, whatever, anything.
Yeah. And I did one more thing. I don't think there's too many on there now, but I think there's only one. But there were bugs. Like bugs would be put into the backlog as well, and I think bugs are something that they don't require voting or anything like that. Really, I mean, they just should be fixed because they're a bug. But I guess there are higher importance bugs as well. So what are people's thoughts on like bugs being in this list, or maybe a separate list for bugs, or whether that just should be internal?
Yeah, but I mean, I would love to see a bug list to know whether or not to report something, right? To take the time to document it, to figure it out, because I think I spend a lot of time recreating stuff to see if it really is a bug. So if I had something to look, I don't think it should be this list. I think someone mentioned, to take the time to start at the top and read through everything is a big investment of time. And I know that everybody's probably short on time. So anything to clear up the list would be helpful. I also think that grouping some items together might be helpful. Yeah. Or some sort of tagging system, because some definitely, relate to one another.
Absolutely. And that's actually a point here, because there are some tags, like on the website you can view like groups, but that's not in this interface. So that's one point that could be improved on.
One of the other things that was mentioned in, I think, the last call with Treeple was that some sort of email notification when it gets reset. I don't want to lose that, because I think, time to vote again, we're clearing all the votes or whatever is helpful.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, and that is kind of an announcement to someone who may not be participating to participate, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a big incentive or encouragement for people to come back and vote. Yeah, so just back to the bug list, I think it would be huge to have a bug list in probably just in the portal, because you probably want to keep that private. Oh,
Yeah.
sure, but yeah, because like you, I've spent a lot of time, trying something, and then you submit it to the team, and they say, yeah, that's a known bug. It's like, that would have saved a lot of time. So
I think you've spent a lot of time on my sites looking for bugs.
yeah, a lot of sites.
Well, and also, I don't know how they do it now, but just once those bugs are fixed, making sure that's part of the release notes and covering those, not just the features. Because I know right now, for example, I got a problem with gift cards. When you put the exclude from shipping, it doesn't get excluded as a bug, but I don't know if they fix that when they're releasing it. So I don't know when to go back and fix that for customer site, because I don't know when it got done, if it's got done yet.
Okay. The release notes are usually pretty detailed with the bugs that have been fixed. I think my recent video reviews of release notes, sometimes I skip the bugs because I just think, well, you can go in and just look at the list rather than me going through them all. But they tend to be fairly thorough with the bugs in the release notes. So Jack's just commented there that the email notification should have instructions on how to vote. He's wondering how many partners just don't even know how to vote. So is there a public number as to how many partners there are currently? I don't think there's a public number. I guess you can gauge the amount of members in Slack. Could give you an indication, I guess. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, so any other thoughts on this or questions about anything?
Is it currently locked? Like, when I click log in to vote, it doesn't go anywhere? Is that just for me?
I'm not sure.
No, mine as well. Yes, I don't know if it's locked or I can't log in as well.
So if it's locked, the button should go away and it should have some clear message that says, currently locked or something, because I tried last week and, sometimes it's me and, other times it's locked and I just don't know for sure.
Right. So are you talking just in the portal or on the actual website? Because I think, obviously this new interface that we're looking at now isn't released. Like, that's coming in a few days. So it's still the old voting system. So I'm not sure.
So the old voting, so what I'm saying right now in the old system, the button is there that says log in to vote, but if I click it, it doesn't go anywhere.
Okay. Yeah,
and that's in both the portal and on the live side. I tried both.
Okay. I guess just in this interim, they've locked it so that because they're going to reset the votes anyway. So
got it.
Perhaps that's why. I'm not sure on that one.
Jack's just made a comment that he voted a few hours ago. So
okay.
Oh.
But yeah, if they're getting reset, it doesn't really matter, I guess. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Or any ideas on how we proceed with a better process for submitting or reviewing backlog items? I think in the forum, we can set up like a template when you make a backlog request. There's like a template you have to, because on a lot of things like in GitHub and that, if you submit a bug request or anything like that, they usually have like a template of things that you have to specify. So do you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
I think a template is a good idea.
Yeah.
So it's precise and on the point.
And a good example.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right. Well, if there's no more comments, we can let everyone go. I'll just check the chat. All right. Well, this is, I think this is great feedback. This will obviously be recorded, and the team will look at it as well. So hopefully that influences how they move forward with this. And yeah, it should be good. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming, and see you next Treehouse.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everyone.